there were a few places in Europe, and I am most specifically working on UK. So it will definitely be there in Ireland within 6 weeks, I would say. But I'm hoping it's October 3rd without looking at my notes. And basically, it's a romantic comedy. I wrote it. If you're going to sit down and write something, which I did with Brian Gross, I really wrote the first draft and he wrote the second. I just decided to fantasize, what do I want to be? Well, I want to be a travel reporter like Anthony Bourdain. And what has happened in my life that would be kind of funny and interesting, and, dating men, but most specifically younger men. And Brian Gross plays Arnold. And basically, it is about the first 3 months of that relationship in the beginning. It starts right before COVID, but of course, COVID, nobody dated. And they get back together after COVID, and he's just kind of questioning along the way. And there's a voiceover. God, I love this woman. She's wacky. She's crazy. She's fun. She's taking me around the world. He has a virtual job as a lawyer. But I don't know if I could be with her the rest of my life. And so it's those quirks about the first 3 months and if a relationship is going to work. And we go to Greece, Turkey, France, South Africa, Portugal, Amsterdam, Netherlands, and yeah, those countries in the movie. So I wanted to film in the places that I wanted to film. And you see us go on safari and we do shark diving and we drink some Burgundy wine, and it was a total labor of love, and I loved every second of it, honestly. And I'm so excited it's together and it's going to be coming out.
And you've answered my second question for me, but I'm just going to touch back on it there. In terms of locations, were you dribbling and dwabbling over certain spots for a period of time, or were you had a certain ideas straight off from the top of your head and pinpoint, yeah, that's where I want to go, that's where I want to shoot this location over this location, or were there one or two locations that maybe that you really wanted to and you were just one got the nod over the other?
Well, I do want a sequel and I do want to come to Ireland because I love the Irish people and I've got Irish heritage. My daughter's name being Drennan, last name we made first. But I really decided specifically on places that I knew very, very well because
Okay.
we had a very small team of 12 people. And this was post-COVID, 2021. And I am telling you, people were not traveling. So it was a complete pleasure to go everywhere. There were hardly any people, but we didn't have much of a budget for extras. And so we have to gather people and say, could you just sit over there? The cameras are going to be running and we'll get you coffee and even breakfast. So it was kind of hard sometimes getting extras. In some places like Turkey, we worked with a casting director. I had never been to Cappadocia, but I knew how gorgeous it was and I had seen all the pictures about the balloon rides. So I was thinking cinematically because I have such incredible cinematographers. I had three, so I didn't miss anything. But I had been to Istanbul many times. I've been to France, probably that country more than anything. And I love the wine so much in the area of Burgundy or Bourgogne in Beaune. And so I really, really knew how to get my way around there. In regards to South Africa, I've been on safari. I'm so lucky 13 times, and I really knew South Africa quite well. So, you do have to do some planning. You can't just go out on safari and not have permits. But we added in shark diving, and you never know if the great white is going to come by, and it did. So that was just one of those. There was just one miraculous moment after another. I hadn't been to Lisbon in 30 years, and I wanted a Latin country, and it was quite challenging, I will say, much more challenging than I thought. That was the only country that was a little bit challenging because of the traffic and just the locations. It wasn't easy, and the producer there, it wasn't as helpful as other people. But again, all the places, with the exception of probably Lisbon, Portugal, and I did love it. We had like this incredible chef in the episode, and I mean, he's actually ends up being cut out at the end, but we're at his restaurant. Like all the Portuguese were just so friendly. But it's interesting how I knew all the places. I knew Greece really, really well. So I went to the two islands that I really knew, Hydra and Patmos. But what was interesting is how helpful everybody was. And they want, and I did it with the motivation, not thinking it would come out this much later, that that people would start traveling again. So at the time, everybody was just dying to have people, but people were just so friendly and helpful. And again, with the exception of a few moments in Lisbon, it was just effortless. I have to be honest. And I just have this incredible team. And everybody was so excited. They hadn't been to all these places, most of them. And so everybody was like, wow, I can't believe. And I'm such a traveler. So I took everybody there. And, it was my production.
Yeah, I imagine you mentioned it's your production and you mentioned the crew that you have, but I imagine in terms of all the logistics that goes into that, in terms of the planning to put it all together, because you're going from country to country, in some cases, continent to continent in terms of that, and in terms of everyone getting there at the same time, one piece, and then being ready for the shooting, and I imagine you were saying you're working within a budget then as well in terms of shooting and a tight sort of schedules in terms of did you have to give yourself maybe 1 or 2 days in terms of leeway here and there for potential mishaps that might happen along the way, or was it very much a smooth ride?
It was so smooth, and what was so interesting is that because it was my own money and it was limited, that there was there wasn't any room on either end. It was interesting that South Africa had to be canceled because of Omicron. So I didn't lose too much money, but it was interesting. We were going in their winter, and looking back at it, I just really believe in God. We were just so miraculously guided to November. So everybody got a nice break, went on different other productions as I had more time to prepare, which I loved because really I only had one assistant and I really did all the travel and all the preparation of everything. So when we got there in November, we ended up hitting a heat wave in northern Kruger, which is in South Africa, and all the animals went down to the river. So you don't know if you're going to see the animals because we went to a cheaper, more authentic called Pafuri Park. And, Pafuri is the area and also the camp. And so it costs you a lot more to go to other camps where they plan and they all talk. So okay, the leopard, is over
Mm.
there, the lions are over there. So what was wild is that we probably wouldn't have seen as many animals and gone for the show if it hadn't been literally 46 Celsius. It was very hard to act in that kind of weather,
Mm.
and we mostly did it in the morning and sunset. But it was one of those examples of things got completely switched because of Omicron, and it all turned out to be that much better later. So
Okay.
yeah, there was tremendous amount of planning. I really can do producing in my sleep. It's something that is just so easy for me. I'm quite organized and I know travel and I know how to move. But it was just interesting that, we didn't have canceled flights.
Mm.
We usually didn't have delays. It was almost like I had angels with me the entire time. People would on the team, they all knew me. A few people were new to the team, but they looked at me like, what is going on? Everything is going perfectly. And I don't take any credit for that. I really do believe that when you're doing something that you love and you've done the right preparation, you have to be good at your preparation, then the rest all lines up because you have the universe behind you. And it really felt that way.
Yeah, and Marcia, when you take on a mammoth project like this, and it is really such a mammoth project, is this once in a lifetime sort of a project, or does it give you the drive or thirst to do something similar in the future? Or do you feel like, well, I've ticked the box in terms of that, and in terms of now I want to see what other opportunities are on the horizon? Or does it make you feel like, well, I've done maybe these locations, maybe this time I want to go Asia or somewhere else and the sort of stuff? Or does it close that window for you, or does it make you that window maybe burn a bit brighter, dare I say, in terms of ambition?
Jim, you just had great questions, really original ones, I have to
Mm.
say. One of the best interviews I've ever had in my life. Yeah, it ticked the box. I honestly, it was so mammoth and we did so many countries. that I don't really have to do it again. I love that I pulled it off and I love the film. It originally was a TV series, which I wasn't able to sell. So I repurposed it and made it a film. So it doesn't have a
Mm.
perfect third act kind of arc, but I love it as a film. If anything, I think I love it more because we took the best of. And I hope this is my problem that it's such a success that they want to do a sequel. And and I thought, oh my God, they're going to have to pay me a lot of money to do it again. Because
Mm.
I do have other projects I want to do. And my last film, which is on Amazon, and it's on my list to get in the UK. It was on the UK. I wonder if it still is, but I don't know about Ireland. It's called Bardo Blues, and I
Okay.
shot it in northern Thailand, in Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai, and it was one of those epic. I wanted to shoot in Thailand my entire life, and I did it on a very low budget. And interesting enough, Chat GPT is not always right because when you ask if there is any woman, much less American woman in Chat GPT, that has filmed in northern Thailand, it says no. So I did it and I ticked off that box, and it was a drama. And it's just interesting. I do think life is really exciting when you're constantly doing different types of projects. But I would be willing because if people really love the character, which is me, it's an extension of me. It's a wacky version of me. But I thought up all the ideas. And the only thing that I am not in this movie is I do stand in lines. There is a scene where we miss the ferry because I don't stand in lines. And Arnold's just finding this out because it's a new relation. He's like, you don't stand in lines. That's going to make things really hard in the future. And I said, I haven't. I met a person, my acupuncturist, who hadn't stood in a line for 20 years. So if there's a line, she just leaves. And then there's a line in the movie where he's like, well, you lived in New York City. And I said, yeah, I made it difficult.
Mm.
But if people love the character, which is again an extension of me, I will be willing to do it a second time. But I know that I feel like I did tick the box. So thank you for that
Yeah.
question.
And Marcia, finally, in terms of being a producer and director for this project, in terms of that, and obviously then most commonly for you working under producers or directors, do you almost get to see, having seen both worlds, obviously you always had a great appreciation and respect for working under producers or directors, but when you're cast into that yourself, do you almost feel to yourself, well, I've a much greater sympathy in terms of what it takes to put a project, a massive scale project from a little seed, dare I say, into a blossoming plant, flower.
Again, great question. I love directing, and because my cinematographer, Justin McAleese, we have this synergy that he makes everything that I seem to have picked as a location and idea even more beautiful. So this directing is kind of almost like a co-directing without even speaking. So I love directing. Of course, I have a greater appreciation for directing and producing, having now done so much myself. But the real answer I'd like to give you is that acting and directing is almost impossible. And that is why you don't see it very often. It is so hard to memorize your lines, sit down, relax, then go look at the camera, try to be critical. I mean, again, Clint Eastwood did it, and I think Robert Redford did it once, and Angelina Jolie has done it. There are not a lot of people that have done it, and they haven't done it really well because it is that hard. That appreciation is on another level, and I really never want to do that again, to be honest, because it's
Mm.
just so hard.
And finally, Marcia Kimpton, I'm going to turn it over to you now for the final 30 seconds. You might enlighten all our audience, all our listeners, why they should tune in en masse, whatever platform it's showing here, whether it's streaming, whether it's in a theatre, whether it's a limited release view for American Abroad, out on October the 30th, October the 3rd. And when they do watch it, Marcia Kimpton, what's in store for them?
Well, there's a lot of laughter and a lot of traveling. You feel like you've traveled to places. And I want to tell you on YouTube, the precursor, the story before American Abroad is called An American in Amsterdam, and it's free on YouTube. So you can actually watch. It's not exactly like American Abroad. And the other plug that I'd like to do is my book called Escaping the Hollywood Bardo, and that you can, and I have it on Audible as well. And it talks about my journey of never giving up. You may not care about filmmakers, and especially the odds are against women, but you do care about that everybody has adversity in their life. And I've adversity and I've overcome it. And I think it's really it's very heartfelt memoir about how you can overcome anything. You can do the impossible, and I just did it with American Abroad. I'm not trying to brag. I just set out and I said, I'm going to all these countries. We're going to film a comedy, and we need more laughter in this world. And I'm so proud that I did it. But I did it with a great team. It wasn't just me, of course.